hazel eyes, bright with invitation as she swiped her tongue over her bottom lip. My lips curved, not enough to classify as a smile, but enough to broadcast my thoughts. You can't handle what I'm into. Despite her short, tight dress and suggestive words, she looked like the type who expected sweet nothings and lovemaking in bed. I didn't do sweet nothings or lovemakings. I fucked a certain way. The only specific type of woman was into that shit. Not hardcore BDSM, but not soft. No kissing, no face-to-face contact. Woman agreed, then tried to change it up halfway through, after which I'd stop and show them the door. I have no tolerance for people who can't keep a simple agreement. That was why I stuck to a roster of familiar rotating names. When I needed a release, both sides knew what to expect. Blonde was not making it onto the roster. Not tonight. I rolled the ice in my glass. It's my friend's farewell party. She followed my gaze toward Josh, who was basking in female attention of his own. He sprawled onto the couch, one of the few remaining pieces of furniture after he'd packed the house up in anticipation of his year abroad, and grinned while three women fawned over him. He'd always been charming one. While I put people on edge, he put them on ease, and his approach toward the inferior sex was the opposite of mine. The more the merrier, according to Josh. He probably fucked half the DC metro area's female population by now. He can join too. The blonde edged closer until her tits grazed my arm. I don't mind. Same. Her friend's a petite brunette who had been quiet up till now, but who'd eyed me like I was a juicy steak since I walked in the door piped up. Liz and I do everything together. The intuition couldn't have been clearer had she tattooed it across her exposure cleavage. Most guys would have jumped at the opportunity, but I was already bored with the conversation. Nothing turned me off more than desperation, which reeked stronger than their perfume. I didn't bother answering. Instead, I scanned the room for something more interesting to hold my attention. If it were a party for anyone else but Josh, I would have skipped it. Between my job as the COO of Archer Group and my side project, I had enough on my plate without attending pointless social gatherings, but Josh was my best friend. One of the few people whose company I could stand for more than an hour at a time, and he was leaving Monday for his gap year as a medical volunteer in Central America. So here, I was pretending like I actually wanted to be here. The silvery laugh peeled through the air, drawing my eyes toward the sword always brought a flask of Macallan whenever I visited. What about her? Josh and his sister were close. Even if they bickered so much, I wanted to duct tape their mouths sometimes. That was the nature of siblings. Something I'd never quite gotten to experience. The whiskey turned sour in my mouth, and I set my glass down with a grimace. I'm worried about her. Josh rubbed a hand over his jaw. His expression growing serious. I know she's a big girl and can take care of herself, unless she's getting stranded in the middle of fucking nowhere. Thanks for picking her up, by the way, but she's never been on her own for so long, and she can be a little too trusting. I had an inkling of where Josh was going with this, and I didn't like it at all. She won't be alone. She has her friends. I inclined my head toward said. One of them, a curvy redhead in a gold skirt that made her look like a disco ball, chose that moment to hop onto the table and shake her ass onto the rap, blasting through the speakers. Josh snorted. Drools. She's a liability, not help. Stella is as trusting as Ava and Bridget. Well, she has security, but she's not around as much. You don't need to worry. They're safe, and the crime rate here is close to zero. Yeah, but it'd feel better if I had someone I trusted looking after her, you know? Fuck, the train was heading straight off a cliff. I couldn't do anything to stop it. I wouldn't ask. I know you've got a lot of shit going on, but she broke up with her ex a couple weeks ago, and he's been harassing her. I always knew he was a little shit, but she wouldn't listen to me. Anyways, if you could keep an eye on her, just to make sure she doesn't get killed or kidnapped or anything, I'd owe you big. You already owe me big for all those times I saved your ass, I said warily. You had fun while doing it. You're too uptight sometimes, Josh grinned. So, is that a yes? I glanced at Ava again, took her in. She was 22, 4 years younger than Josh and me, and she managed to appear both younger and older than her years. It was the way she carried herself, like she'd seen it all, the good, the bad, the downright ugly, and still believed in goodness. She must have felt me staring, because she paused her conversation and looked directly at me, her cheeks tinting pink at my unflinching gaze. She changed out of her jeans t-shirt into a purple dress that swirled around her knees. Too bad the dress was nice, but my mind flashed back to our car ride, when her damp shirt had clung to her like a second skin, and her nipples had strained against the decadent red lace of her bra. I'd meant what I said about her not being my type, but I'd enjoyed the view. I could imagine myself lifting that shirt, tucking her bra, side with my teeth, and closing my mouth around the sweet, hardened peaks. I yanked myself out of that startling fantasy fast. What the fuck was wrong with me? That was Josh's sister. Innocent, doe-eyed, and so sweet I could throw up. Total opposite of sophisticated, jaded women. I prefer both in and out of the bed. I didn't have to worry about feelings with that latter. They knew better than to develop any around me. If it was nothing but feelings with a hint of sass. A ghost of a smile passed over my mouth when I remembered her parting shot earlier. I hope that stick in your ass punctures a vital organ. Not the worst thing anyone said to me. Not by a long shot, but more aggressive than I'd expect coming from her. I'd never heard her say a bad word to or about anyone before. I took perverse pleasure into the fact that I could rile her up so much. Alex, Josh prompted. I don't know, man. I dragged my eyes away from Ava. Her purple dress. I'm not much of a babysitter. Good thing she's not a baby, he quipped. Look, I know this is a big ask, but you're really the only person I trust not to, you know? Fuck her. Jesus, dude. Josh looked like he'd swallow a lemon. Don't use that word in relationship to my sister. It's gross. But yeah, I mean, we both know she's not your type, and even if she was, you'd never go there. A sliver of guilt strange urge to scrub the rug and tear those bloody particles out of the softwood fiber one by one, gripping me, but I couldn't move. All I could do was stand and stare at the grotesque scene in my living room. The room that not half an hour earlier had burst with warmth and laughter and love. Now it was cold and lifeless like the three bodies at my feet. I blinked and they disappeared. The lights, the memories, the news around my neck. But they'd come back. They always did. "You're the best," Josh was saying, his grin back now that it agreed to take on a role I had no business taking. I wasn't a protector. I was a destroyer. I broke hearts, crushed businesses, opponents, and didn't care about the aftermath. If someone was stupid enough to fall for me or cross me, do things I warned people never ever to do, they had it coming. "I'll bring you back. Look, I don't know. Coffee, chocolate, pounds of whatever's good down there, and I owe you a big fat favor in the future." I forced a smile before I could respond to my phone ring. And I held up a finger. "Be right back. I have to take this." "Take your time, man." Josh was already distracted by the blonde and brunette who had been all over me earlier, and who found a much more whiling audience my best friend. By the time I stepped into the backyard and answered the call, they had their hands breathing his shirt, beneath his shirt. I don't know how to pronounce this word, but it means uncle. Uncle, I said, using the Ukrainian term. "Alex," my uncle's voice rasped over the line, scratching from decades of cigarettes and the wear and tear of life. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "No." "What?" Alex, my uncle's voice raps over the line, scratching from decades of cigarettes and the wear and tear of life. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "No." I glanced at the slides, glanced the door at the revelry inside. Josh had lived in the same rambling two-story house off the Ayers campus since undergrad. We roomed together until I graduated and moved to D.C. proper to be close to my office and to get away from the orders of shrieking drunken college students who paraded through campus and surrounding neighborhoods every night. Everyone had turned out for Josh's farewell party, and by everyone I mean half the population of Hazelburg, Maryland, where Thayer was located. He was a town favorite, and I imagined people would miss his parties as much as they missed him, Josh himself. Someone who always claimed to be drowning in schoolwork, he found a lot of time for drinking and sex. Not that his academic performance was bastard at a 4.0 GPA. "Did you take care of the problem?" my uncle asked. I heard a drawer open and close, followed by the faint click of a lighter. I'd urged him to quit smoking countless times, but he always brushed me off. "Old habits die hard. Old bad habits even more so." Ivan Volkov had reached this age where he couldn't be bothered. Not yet. The moon hung low in the sky, casting ribbons of light that snarked through the otherwise inky darkness of the backyard. Light and shadow, two sides of the same coin. We're close to justice, vengeance, salvation. For 16 years, the pursuit of those three things had consumed me. They were my every waking thought, my every dream and nightmare, my reason for living. Even the situations where I'd been distracted by something else, the chess play of the corporate politics, the fleeting pleasure of burying myself in the tight, warm heat of willing bodies, they'd lurked in my consciousness, driving me to greater heights of ambition and ruthlessness. 16 years might seem like a long time, but I specialized in the long game. It doesn't matter how many years I have to wait, as long as the end is worth it. And the end of the man who had destroyed my family, it would be glorious. "Good," my uncle coughed, and my lips pinched. One of these days I'd convince him to quit smoking. Life had driven any sentimentality out of me years ago. But Ivan was my only living relative. He took me in, raised me as his own, and stuck by me through every thorny twist of my path toward revenge. official CEO of Arch Group, the real estate development company he'd founded a decade ago with my guidance. I'd had a knack for business even as a teenager. Arch Group headquarters called Philadelphia home, but it had offices across the country since it was based in DC. That was the company's real power center, though board meetings still took place at HQ. I could have taken over as CEO years ago, per my uncles and my agreement when he started the company, but the COO position offered me more flexibility until I finished what I had to do. Besides, everyone knew I was the power behind the throne anyway. Yvonne was a decent CEO, but it was my strategies that had encapsulated it into the Fortune 500 after a mere decade. My uncle and I talked business for a while longer before I hung up and rejoined the party. The gear in my head cranked into motion as I took stock of the evening's development. I promised to charge my uncle's nudge about the minor hiccup in my revenge plan. Somehow I had to reconcile the two over the next year. I mentally rearranged the pieces of my life into different patterns, playing each scenario out to the end, weighing the pros and cons, examining them for potential cracks until I reached a decision. Everything's good. Josh called out from the couch where the blonde kissed his neck while the brunette hands became intimately acquainted with the region below his belt. Yes. To my irritation, my gaze strayed toward Ava again. She was in the kitchen, fussing over the half-eaten cake from Crumble and Bake. Her tan skin glowed with the faint sheen of sweat from dancing, and her raven hair billowed around her face in a soft cloud. About your earlier request, I have an idea. Chapter 3. Now we will be moving on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Ava. I hope you appreciate what a good friend I am. Jules yawned as we tromped across our front yard towards Josh's house. We're waking up at the bug crack of dawn to help your brother clean it back when I don't even like the dude. I laughed and looped my arm through hers. I'll buy you a caramel matcha from Morning Roast after, promise. She paused, large with extra crunch toppings. You know it. Fine. Jules yawned again. That makes it somewhat worth it. Jules and Josh were not fans of each other. They were so similar. They were both outgoing, charming, smart as hell, and total heartbreakers. Jules was a human version of Jessica Rabbit, all shiny, red hair, cream skin, curves that made me look at my body with a sigh. Overall, I was happy with how I looked. Ironically, Jules sometimes complained about her double D's, saying they were hard on her back. There should be a Venmo for breasts that allow women to send and receive cup sizes with the press of a button. Like I said, I was happy with how I looked most of the time, but no one, not even supermodels or movie stars, was immune from insecurities. Besides her grievances with their breasts, Jules was the most confident person I'd ever met. Aside from my brother, whose ego was so large it could house the entire East Coast of the United States with the room left over for Texas. I suppose he had reason to be considered, considering he'd always been the golden boy and thought it pained me to admit it because he was my brother. He wasn't bad looking either, 6 feet tall with a thick black hair and razor-sharp bone structure, which he never let anyone forget. I was convinced Josh would commission a sculpture of himself and display it on his front lawn if he could. Jules and Josh never divulged why they disliked each other so much, but I suspected it might be because they saw too much of themselves in each other. The front door was already open, so we didn't bother knocking. To my surprise, the house was pretty clean. Josh had put most of his furniture in storage last week, and the only thing left to pack was the couch, which someone would pick up later. A few stray kitchen items and the weird abstract painting in the living room. Josh. My voice echoed in the large, empty space while Jules sat on the ground and pulled her knees to her chest with a grumpy expression. She wasn't a morning person. Where are you? Bedroom. I heard a loud thump upstairs following the muffled curse. A minute later, Josh came down holding a large cardboard box. Shit, I'm donating, he explained, setting it on the kitchen counter. I wrinkled my nose. Put a shirt on, please. give JR of her memory eye candy. Josh smirked. I'm not that cruel. I wasn't the only one who thought Jules looked like Jessica Rabbit. Josh always called her by the cartoon character initials, which pissed her off to no end. Then again, everything Josh did pissed her off. Jules lifted her head and scowled. Please, I've seen better abs at the campus gym. Listen to Ava and put on a shirt before I lose last night's dinner. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Josh drawled, slapping a hand against his six-pack. The only thing you'll be losing is... Okay, I slashed my arm through the air, cutting off the conversation before it went down on a path that scarred me for life. Enough chit-chat. Let's get you packed up before you miss your flight. Fortunately, Josh and Jules behaved for the next hour and a half while we packed up the remaining item and loaded them into the SUV and rented for the move. Soon, the only thing left to pack was the painting. Thumb here doing this too. I had a massive canvas. I don't even know how it fit in the car. Nah, leave it there. He likes it. Who? As far as I knew, no one had taken over Josh's lease yet, but it was no July. I expected the place to go fast closer to the start of the semester. You'll see. I didn't like the smile on his face at all. The lower burr of the powerful engine filled the air. Josh's smile broadened. As a matter of fact, you'll see right now. Jules and I exchanged glances before we ran to the front door and pushed it open. A familiar Aston Martin idled in the driveway. The door opened and Alex stepped out, looking more gorgeous than any human had the right to look in jeans, aviators, and a black button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He took off his sunglasses and assessed us with cool-eyed, unfazed by the many welcoming party at the front steps. Only I didn't feel particularly welcomed. But that's Alex, I stammered. Looking mighty fine, I might add. Jules nudged me in the ribs. I scowled in response. Who cared if he was hot? He was a jerk. Hey, dude. Josh slapped hands with Alex. Wear your stuff. Moving company's bringing it later. Alex side-eyed Jules, who assessed him in the way one would a shiny new toy. Besides Josh, Alex was the only guy who'd ever fallen for her charms. Wait, what? Alex side-eyed Jules, who assessed him the way one would shiny new toy. Besides Josh, Alex was the only guy who'd never fallen for her charms, which intrigued me more. She was a sucker for a good challenge, probably because most guys fell at her feet before she even opened her mouth. Wait, I put my hand up, my heart slamming a panicked rhythm against my ribcage. You're not moving here. Actually, he is. Josh slung an arm over my shoulder, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Meet your new neighbor, little sis. My eyes ping-ponged between him and Alex, who couldn't look more bored by the conversation. No, there was only one reason Alex Volkov would leave his crushy DC penthouse and move back to Hazelburg, and I'd bet my new camera it had nothing to do with the nostalgia for his college days. No. Yes. I glared at my brother. I don't need a babysitter. I'm 22 years old. Who said anything about babysitting? Josh struggled. He's looking after the house for me. I'm moving back in when I return next year, so it makes sense. Bullshit. You want him to keep an eye on me. That's a bonus. Josh's face softened. It doesn't hurt to have someone you can rely on when I'm not here, especially given this whole thing with Liam. I winced at the mention of my ex. Liam had been blowing up my phone since I caught him cheating on me a month and a half ago. He'd even shown up at the gallery where I worked a few times, begging for another chance. I wasn't devastated by our breakup. We did for a few months, and I hadn't been in love with him or anything, but the situation had brought all my insecurities to the surface. Josh worried about Liam getting out of hand, but let's be honest, Liam was a Brooks brother, wearing polo, playing trust fund baby. I doubted he'd do anything that would mess him up his perfectly gelled hair. I was more embarrassed I dated him than concerning about my physical safety. his phone in the whole time. You do not need to move here. Don't you have stuff to do in DC? DC is a 20-minute drive, he said without looking up. For the record, I am totally in favor of you moving in next door, Jules piped up. Traitor. Do you mow the lawn shirtless? If not, I highly recommend it. Alex and Josh frowned at the same time. Josh pointed at her, you do not pull any of your shenanigans while I'm gone. It's